I just want to start by saying that there are a lot of people on the live stream. I know everyone that was in the community, so plus others. So I think about 20 people, maybe a couple more, will be listening on the live stream. But thank you all for coming. Thank you for everyone who is here. Once again, this is the Student Trustee Selection Town Hall. These are our 8 finalists. And we will be deciding between, the next step will be 5 of these candidates will get to speak with the governor's staff to decide who will become the next student trustee at Ohio University. So I'm going to ask you 7 questions. We're hoping for an answer about a minute to a minute and a half for each question. So try and be as succinct as possible. And without further ado, we're going to get started. We're going to start down here with the first question, and then with the second question, we'll move on at the end. We'll start, and then we'll go down the list. Okay, so the first question is, also my name is Hannah. I probably have already said that multiple times, but I just wanted to introduce myself. So please introduce yourself and tell us how your experiences have prepared yourself to be a student trustee here at Ohio University.
Hello, my name is Daniel Warmke. I am a master's student. I'm actually going to be beginning my PhD program in the fall. And so my experiences prepare me largely because I have more experiences than most people running for this sort of position. I am somewhat older. I am a Army NCO, and I'm working on a 2nd degree and soon to be a third degree. I usually manage about 107 people in my other jobs, but my interests here is mostly to just bring a slightly more non-traditional and a graduate-focused view to one of these slots for the trustee positions. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Ryan Siri. I'm a 2nd year here at Ohio University. I'm studying biology with the pre-medical sciences track. My experiences have prepared me for this position, particularly one experience. Last year, I was a Pepsi Leadership Scholar. In this group, one of the primary focuses was to develop an individual's leadership strategy and then familiarize them with using that leadership strategy in a group setting. And so throughout the course of the program, we had multiple different experiences, whether that be community service, serving in different groups in terms of that, or the big project we actually had throughout the course of the program was the collegiate leadership competition, which was at John Carroll University up in Cleveland. And at this competition, we all were assigned into smaller groups of about 6 people. Per subject, per project, there was one person who was assigned to be the leader. And so it was basically facilitated so that you would exercise the leadership strategies that you had practiced or studied throughout the course of the program and then actually get to practice in the group setting. From that program, I gained a lot of knowledge in terms of group dynamics, which is something that I stressed in the previous interview. And I think that group dynamic knowledge and awareness of different individuals' perspectives within a group is very beneficial in terms of working towards a common goal of the project. Thank you.
So my name is Adam Bosinger. I'm a sophomore studying marketing and economics. And some experiences that I believe that have prepared me for the role of student trustee is my work on Student Senate. I serve on the Governmental Affairs Commission, where I work to essentially lobby for student interests at the State House and City Hall. That has been a very inspiring experience. One of the things that we work for is an increase in student education funding for higher education. And I also currently work for City Hall. And there I believe I advocate for student interest when I advocated for Complete Streets, which is essentially a program where we improve the quality of roads to make them more accessible for all students, whether they be disabled or like bicycle riders. So I believe my experiences at Ohio University have helped prepare me for this position.
Hello, my name is Ellen Gill, and I'm a first-year English pre-law, criminology, sociology dual major. I'm also working towards a certificate in law, justice, and culture. I believe one of my most pertinent experiences is my role as a student defending students representative. In that role, I represent my client, I represent a student in the community standards process. I think this applies to the student trustee process because in that role, I'll be representing the student body in the Board of Trustees group. I believe that my experience with advocacy and representation will allow me to be the best fit for this role. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Justin Kelly. I'm currently a second-year student studying accounting, finance, marketing, and business pre-law. I just kind of want to talk today a little bit about the experiences that I have, and because of my diverse experiences, I feel like I'd be a good fit for the role. So one thing that I think is really important to understand in this position is that it's about us as a group, and it's about advocating for our rights. And through my work in different organizations, such as the Presidential Leaders, the Student Senate, the Shea Self Senate, and the through fraternity, I believe I reach a diverse group of students that I can advocate for and really understand, like, we are in this together as an organization and say, hey, how can I help you? Like, what are your problems? And kind of being proactive in the role. And because I have the reach of those students, I feel like I can make a big difference because I can bring the perspective, maybe like the president, I can understand his. Being a student senate, I can understand the perspective of the students. And then also kind of, it's something really cool about the Board of Trustees is understanding the perspective of the university as well. So kind of having the triple threat, like being able to say, I can bring from all these to my experiences.
I'm Eli Warner. I am a sophomore history major in the Honors Tutorial College, also earning my certificate in law, justice, and culture. And I work up at the Voinovich School of Leadership and Public Affairs in the Community Health Prevention and Promotion Group, which combats substance abuse in rural Ohio. So essentially, what I think I bring to the table as far as the student trustee position is concerned is a unique perspective on the Voinovich School and the Honors Tutorial College that I feel like a lot of students don't really know about or are too familiar with. So I feel like I could represent those students' interests pretty well as through my extracurriculars. I have contact with the rest of the university. And then career-wise, I'm kind of working towards a public policy, public administration path. So my interests align with kind of the job of the student trustee to represent the voices of his or her constituents. So.
Good evening. My name is Sam Carrier. I'm currently a first year retired university studying applied mathematics with a focus on behavioral economics and specifically game theory. So reasons why I think just like being a board trustee is really good, why being a good trustee is because I have lots of experience, not just working with students and representing students, but also the residents of Athens and just community members as a whole. When I was in high school back in the Dayton area, I was the captain of an international renowned academic decathlon team. And by doing this, I also represented top community standards here on campus as a Senate Appropriations Commission Senator at large. It is my job to get to know some of the different organizations, learn about what events they're hosting and why they're important to them. And then further, in association with the Ohio Honors Program and through conducting research with Mr. Rose, the city planner, I have lots of experience representing both students and residents of Athens.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Levi Kovac. I'm a first-year graduate student in the psychology program at KU. And a little bit about myself. I'm from Philadelphia. I was an undergraduate with a master's degree in psychology and then later counseling and clinical health sciences. My advocacy really started as part of my co-op program at Drexel, working with adults with intellectual disabilities. And so a big part of that job is advocating for people who may not be able to communicate clearly their own needs and their own interests. And so that was part of my job, was working with them. Beyond that, I also worked in a patient facility advocating for patients on those units, and as well as in schools supporting children who have intellectual disabilities, things like autism spectrum disorder. And so working with them and helping advocate and wear different hats for not only being able to advocate for the child, but also advocating for the teacher, for resources for the classroom, as well as keeping in mind the public as well. And so I really pride myself on my ability to wear these different hats and advocate for not only the
clients that I work with, but also to recognize that there are key interests and stakeholders at the community at the level. And finally, I've come to know you experience, and I've started working as a policy administration on the policy administration committee, the graduate program. And as part of that, I advocate for psychology graduate students. And that opportunity allowed me to bring to the table the needs and interests of graduate students. So all that together, I bring a perspective of an undergraduate student from another institution, as well as the perspective of a graduate student from the current institution.
Thank you. How will you keep the student body informed about the decisions being made by the Board of Trustees?
I believe that to keep the student body informed, I could start just as a basis through the organizations in which I'm involved. I currently work as an RA in Trustee Hall here on campus under Housing and Residence Life. And so I think from there, I could reach out to different students I know are involved with different groups around campus, different student leaders serving for different programs. From there, I could branch out to some of the other organizations that I'm involved in, such as Kappa Kappa Psi, the National Music Service Fraternity. I'm also involved in Tri Beta, which is the National Biological Service Fraternity. And just right there is a diverse array of different students. From there, I could reach out to branch campuses, just ask about how they feel about different board matters. And from there, just I think not being afraid to reach out. From there, you can form a solid basis from which you can gain perspective and communicate it back to the board.
I personally think the best way to reach out to a diverse group of students is through organizations like the Student Senate or the Graduate Student Senate, IFC, and all the other Greek governing boards. Because I think by reaching out to them, you can reach out to a lot of people who are very active in the community and in the discussion and find out what they really believe about the issues being discussed. And other than organizations on Ohio University's campus, we also need to remember the branch campuses. They also have their own student governments. And I think a good idea would be to reach out and get their advice on decisions that need to be made on the Ohio University level, because they are Bobcats too, and they are part of the community.
I think the most important part about being a communicative student trustee is making yourself visible to your constituents. This comes from going and visiting student organization leaders. This also comes from just making yourself visible in the front room, letting people know who you are, and knowing that you are the one to come to if they have problems. I think it's important to realize that student trustees have office hours, and also making sure people know when your office hours are. That can come from posting on social media. Student trustees are in my office right now, sending out emails to organization leaders, and also making visits to the regional campuses to make sure that you're representing every one of your constituents. Thank you.
So one of the things that I think, even if we're involved in many organizations, one thing that maybe we miss is that not every student is involved in an organization that we might reach out to. So I think something that would be really cool for the student trustees to do is, I know that Maddie Sloat does it as student senate president, but maybe send an email after every board of trustees meeting saying, hey, here's what we voted on, and just kind of be very upfront and transparent. Like, here's what it is, here's why we did it, and then if you want to come talk to us about it, here are office hours. And I think one of the things too you can do is have virtual office hours for maybe the branch campuses, and just say, hey, here's where you can come to us, and this is the time when you can come to us. And that's where you're really being out there, you're being transparent, you're being visible, and you're allowing students to know this is what happened at the meeting, because maybe students might not even know what happened, so they don't know what to say. So that's just where I feel like it would be really cool, is just be visible, and that's something I would love to do, is maybe say, hey, here's an email about everything that's happened in the last meeting, or maybe before, like, here's everything that's going to happen. If you'd like to say your opinion, please come by office hours.
So one thing that I've noticed in this student trustee process is that a lot of students don't know what a student trustee is, and or they even don't know what the board of trustees as a whole is, which I think is kind of a barrier to the student trustees connection with the student body. So one thing I was hoping to do to kind of overcome that is I was planning on taking, 1 or 2 evenings every week to go and, it's kind of been mentioned already, but visit clubs and kind of introduce myself, explain who I am, what I do, and ask if they have any concerns or opinions, and then let them know, what we're doing for them. There are also the more traditional modes of communication, of course. There's social media, there's email. One concern I have with that is that sometimes students will just kind of ignore their email. So I was hoping to maybe kind of implement social media a little more, just because students get a lot of emails and they can ignore them pretty easily unless it catches their eye for some reason. So either just make those emails more accessible to them and much more appealing to open, or utilize social media, which is a pretty common method of communication among students.
So as a student trustee, one of the most important things you need to do is have conversations with students. Not necessarily big lectures or talking to one or two, but really sitting down, having honest conversations, learning what they like, and then again, turning around and once we have information from the board of trustees, turning that around, providing that back to the students whom we have conversations with. Further, those conversations also help connections with people, really solid relationships. Then we can call on those relationships in places such as student senate, going to student organizations, social media, emails, everywhere. Really call on those relationships and help distribute that information. But ultimately, I think it comes down to that first essential key of really connecting with the students.
First of all, a lot of really good points brought up already. I'd just like to add that in addition to the problems of not all students are in organizations, so reaching out to them through casting a wide net through things like email to get in touch with them. I think the best way to get in touch with students, in addition to that, would be to leverage the relationships that we have with other leaders in the community, and using the existing infrastructure and really understanding the existing power dynamics that exist across this campus and the other campuses. So that means contacting and finding a contact for communication between the student trustees and people who can disseminate information to their existing organizations or to people on campus. As a student trustee, they can't do it all. I mean, one person cannot simply communicate all of this by themselves. So you really have to be able to understand how to leverage teamwork and include the other leaders of the organizations on campus. It's the best way to communicate messages across the university.
Thank you. So realistically, one person can come into contact with maybe hundreds on a regular basis that they're informing. And I'm part of student organizations. I'm part of Graduate Student Senate, and I have a good working relationship with the incoming president for next year. And I will continue to communicate with those organizations. But fortunately, I am hanging out in the media school, which is exceedingly good at pushing information out to a lot of people. And so there are existing organs within Ohio University and within the community that are excellent at keeping everyone informed. And so instead of adding more systems that everyone has to remember, I would focus on adding content to those existing systems, whether it is our radio station, the existing papers, the compass, all of the ways that people are already getting information. They are looking for content, and I have many media professionals around me that can help with press releases. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. What is an issue you feel Ohio University students currently face at this institution?
I think one of the biggest issues facing Ohio University students is the mental health crisis. I personally have had friends who have sadly passed away due to mental illness. And I think one of the most important things we can do is help advocate for those students, make sure their voices are heard, help them feel like they are a welcome part of this community to prevent them from doing something drastic and to keep them a part of our Bobcat community for as long as possible.
I think one of the biggest struggles that comes to a college student is knowing the resources on their campus. I think that you need to know that if you're struggling with mental health, that we have a mental health counseling services center. I think that you need to know that if you want a group of like-minded individuals, that you can go to the Women's Center, you can go to the LGBTQ Center, you can go to Student Senate and speak out if you have a concern. I feel that one of my roles as student trustee is to help inform students about the resources that can help connect them and help solve problems that they have. And I think that if more people knew the resources that Ohio University offers, they'd be able to handle some of these issues instead of just saying, this is a problem and I don't know how to fix it.
So I kind of really want to allude to something that Adam said. I think like mental health is definitely a large issue. And I know that we don't have necessarily a high retention rate for students that come in as freshmen. So I think going along kind of with Alan's thing and saying, maybe make them aware of the resources that are available are both very valid points. And I also think an area in which some students have come to me and expressed concern is interdisciplinary study. So I know a lot of students that are in multiple colleges that have said, hey, I really want to get a major in, let's say you're an engineering major, you want to get a business major for some reason. They really can't because of certain requirements and things that they have to go through. And so I think really to try and broaden their scope, it'd be really cool if there was a way for, let's say, an ETM major in a college engineering to go to college business and say, hey, I maybe want to start my own practice one day. How do I get an accounting major? Or how do I take those classes without maybe having to go through some of those steps? I know we have things like the BSS and things of that nature, but maybe not as going through, maybe trying to minimize some of the hoops that what students have to go through to have an interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary learning.
Yeah, so there are two big things I think of initially. The first is a lot of students don't really have a deep understanding of the way the school works technically. So like for culinary services, a lot of students don't understand how meal swipes work. Or, talking to an advisor, how do you do that? So one thing I'd like to do as a student trustee would be just kind of provide a student voice, someone who can talk to them on their level and help them understand like how does the university actually work technically. And just because like that misunderstanding, I notice stresses a lot of students out. Another more dark, I guess, problem that I think this campus has is there have been some pretty reprehensible sexual harassment and sexual assault cases this year. And I have some friends who have had some personal experiences with that type of thing. And a big concern I have is that a lot of people don't feel like they can get help or report it or talk to somebody. And they don't really know that the university offers resources for that type of thing. So I would just want to be there to provide people with an avenue of support, help them get that support, keep using that word.
Thank you. So these are all action points. And on a broader scale, I think one of the biggest problems or challenges that students face on campus on a daily basis is that they don't feel as if they're being heard completely in a variety of different aspects, whether they're struggling with mental health, but they're not sure who's going to listen, or they're not sure if the professors are going to listen, that the workload might be too much for them in a particular instance, or perhaps in terms of diversity. Some students might feel as if they're not being heard when they're making arguments with and to solve this problem, I would encourage students with the connections, having a reason for long conversations. I would encourage them to go to places like Student Senate or Faculty Senate or Graduate Student Senate or the administrative body as a whole. Go to them or come to student trustees or the board of trustees as a whole. Talk with them and really help make sure that they understand what we're going through. And as a trustee, I will work hard to ensure that all students felt heard.
So first, I'd like to echo the importance of the mental health issues, sexual assault issues that are a big priority on personals in terms of advocacy. And more broadly, I think one of the challenges that face students in addition to those is access to programs that help them to address these issues. A lot of the things that get in the way of students being able to access these things are not visible to everyone who's on campus. And so it can be a matter of addressing some of these barriers to access in terms of health insurance. I know for a lot of undergraduates, health insurance might be included in terms of paid for loans. Some people may not. I know for graduate students, it's an extra expense in terms of that. And that can be a huge barrier to not only financial problems, but also choosing what kind of insurance they get, which gives them access to the kind of care that they're going to be able to receive. So that includes not only physical but mental health. In addition to that, the way to really address some of these broad systemic problems, I think, is to really evaluate the programs that exist in terms of what their goals are, monitoring whether they're effective, the impact that they have, and how efficient they are at doing this. And so those are things, there are things all over campus, initiatives that are being done to address things like sexual assault and mental health, and they're visible. And yet there are still reasons why students aren't getting access to these things. And some of that includes just finding ways to either reduce stigma or to reduce some of the hoops that students have to jump through to access these things.
Fantastic issues raised. For myself, I think my resume is best suited to addressing the people who are left out of a cookie cutter understanding of the university population. That there are so many non-traditional students and other people that are not going to be in and out in 4 years due to any number of factors. I got deployed 4 times while I was in school. I know people who have been in at OU way longer than they should have been because they got pregnant and had to take a couple of semesters off. The whole idea of how a cycle of classes works so that you can get put far behind due to missing just a single semester. I think that my perspective is valuable in dealing with all of those who are not able to follow the exact track as it was laid out in the course catalog, and thinking about what happens when someone is outside the box.
One of the issues I feel with the university that at least I recognize is involvement, and through that, the sense of the Bobcat family. As a resident assistant in a first-year building, I've had a lot of residents come up to me asking, I feel like I'm sitting around all day. How do I get involved in different things? And so I feel like through that, just a sense of who you are as an individual is something you can learn through being involved in different programs, whether that be intramural sports, working in, say, Baker, anything such as that. So something that I've done to begin combating this sense of not knowing what to get involved in. One engagement that I planned with my residents is to have the Career and Leadership Development Center come into the hall and talk with everyone about the different programs that they provide. The Pepsi Scholars, the program that I mentioned I was involved with as a first-year student, served me to greatly identify who I am. And I feel that through an identification of who you are as a person, what you like to do, how you like to work, that can lead to a greater sense of the Bobcat family, how you interact with others.
Thank you. Okay, so in recent years, the voting rights of student trustees have been heavily debated among state legislators and university leadership. Currently, Ohio University's student trustee does not have a vote on the board of trustees. Do you feel that the student trustee should have a vote? If yes, why? If no, why not? So, we're going to start with Ellen.
I believe that in order to have a collaborative effort, each person must come to the table with the same amount of representation. This being said, I think that it is crucial for a student trustee to have a vote. I believe that whenever you're in a conversation, you all need to be equally represented and validated by a vote. By allowing the student trustee to have a vote, each member of the board is able to take that student trustee more seriously. You're representing an entire body of students, on Athens campus and regional campuses, along with graduate students. And I think that huge body of constituents deserves a vote at that table.
So I don't necessarily believe that students should have a vote as a student trustee. And some of the reasons that I think that is because the individuals that sit on the board of trustees with you have years of experience. Some of these individuals have been in the field working for 40 plus years. And they have so much, they've learned so much during their time that I myself, as a junior or possibly a senior, may not be able to live up to that. I don't necessarily know how the university works, and I don't know the ins and outs. You know, I don't know what might not know what it means when somebody comes and says, here's what the balance sheet looks like. Here's where all our money is going to, things like that. Like I can try to understand, but I don't know if I can ever fully be able to say that I'm at the same level as the other individuals on the board. So that's part of the reason I don't necessarily think students should have a vote. I think that they are very good at having a voice and being advocates, but having a vote, I think, almost it kind of hurts the experience of the other individuals that are sitting on the board of trustees.
So this is actually an issue that I've been thinking about throughout this process, and it's pretty nuanced. And I can't honestly say I know exactly where I stand on it. On the one hand, Helen's absolutely right. We're representing the student body, and the student body is an integral part of the university, and they're the life of the university. You know, they're experiencing university decisions personally, and I feel like yes, the student body should have a say on it, say in that. But at the same time, Justin is also absolutely right that student trustee has 1 or 2 years of experience on the board, and the board members, they have however many years of experience, and that's their not their job, but it's one of the things that they do and they do passionately, and they know what they're doing, and they have a broader mindset or a broader view on the university. So I guess personally, I am okay with the student trustee position being ex officio, not having a vote. Just because I trust the board members that they have the students' best interests in mind, and they will listen to us and they will hear us when we voice the student body's concerns. And in that way, I guess we do have a vote.
The Board of Trustees as a whole operates the university, but I have a feeling that some of the members of the Board of Trustees aren't completely familiar with how students feel on a day-to-day basis. Because of this, I think that to kind of balance it out, I think that one student trustee should have a right to vote, particularly the senior member of the two student trustees. That person will have 1 year of experience already on the student trustees, still have a decent or a hopefully strong understanding of how the board of trustees operates, what they do, and hopefully that senior member of the trustees really has the interest in the university. At the same time, they also understand exactly what it's like to be a student because they're themselves.
ready too.
So in order to better represent students, they can also have that vote to help better represent that general body as well as the rest of the students. So ultimately, to balance this, wanting to have at least some experience, but also wanting to really represent students, I think that only the senior member of the student trustees should be permitted to vote.
This is certainly a nuanced issue, and I was not surprised to see there really merit to this on both sides. Although I have to say, my position is that student trustees both should have voting rights. And the reason why I say that is because I agree that the constituencies of the student trustee are the most important part of the university. The mission of the university is its students. So why it makes no sense as to why the students wouldn't have a representative on the board of trustees to advocate for them that has some kind of voting power. It doesn't mean that the students are going to be as knowledgeable in certain aspects as the other representatives on the board. But the point of having different people on the board is to bring different perspectives. And so while students may not have as much experience or know about all of the finances that other stakeholders and other board members have, students bring an invaluable perspective and they deserve to have the same rights as other members of the board.
What? No.
So this might undermine my own position some, but I would caution anyone who overvalues experience. I have many times in my career had my most junior person come up to me with the best ideas for how to solve the existing problems, especially when those most junior people do have the lived experience of what is actually going on moment to moment inside the organization that, let's be honest, leaders don't often. Simply because you are insulated from what is going on the day-to-day business by reports and by your assistants and everything else, where someone who is on campus every day living as a student lives may have a different viewpoint. Now, I'm going to switch tacks there, and I actually think that having said all that, you still shouldn't have the votes. Simply because I think that it is more valuable as an advisory role that has to be taken seriously for the knowledge that you bring than as a peer that has to be swayed in a vote.
Although both sides have great benefits and drawbacks, I think that personally the student trustee should not have a vote on the board. And this is the result of simply a potential conflict of interest. A lot of what I'm studying at the moment has to do with perspective and just knowing that you are a student voting on student matters. There's going to be a level of bias that you have towards some of the matters that are discussed. Through this knowledge of perspectives, I believe that each individual has great strength in their words, and working with board members that have served for years and years and that have all the experience previously mentioned, they're going to take those words seriously. And so I feel that even without a vote, you still technically do have a vote on the board of trustees.
I firmly believe that students should definitely have a vote on the board of trustees. The reasoning behind this is, in the past, Student Senate has voted in favor of giving student trustees a voice, a voting voice on the board. And for that reason alone, I think it is my duty to represent those interests and advocate for voting rights. But also, I don't really buy into the saying that as student trustee, you are less knowledgeable about the affairs of the university than the other board members. It is your duty and job as a student trustee to become knowledgeable about the inner workings of the university. And I think if you are not completely knowledgeable to the same level as a lot of those the other trustees, you are doing your constituents a disservice. But given that, I believe it is much more important. What's not important is the role itself, but what you make of the role. So as student trustee, I think even if you do not have a voting voice, it is your duty to still advocate for student interests strongly and firmly. Yeah. Sorry.
It's okay. Thank you all. Ohio University measures of diversity and inclusion have been a hot topic recently. In what way, if any, do you see diversity and inclusion relating to your role as student trustee?
So one of the things that I think you really have to advocate for as a student is for the diverse students that are on campus, or for the diverse individuals that represent us as an institution. So I understand that has been a tough issue recently, but I think one of the things is understanding that those, like maybe their voice doesn't feel like it's heard, maybe going out to them specifically during the tough time and saying, hey, here's maybe something that I understand is going on right now. How can I help you? How can I say, like, how can I showcase your concerns and things that are going on with you? I just think that as an advocacy member for the Board of Trustees, you really have to showcase like our diversity is important. Our diversity really makes a difference to anybody that wants to go to school here, to possible prospective jobs, things of that nature. Because the more diverse you are, the more knowledgeable you'll be in the workforce, and the more likely you'll be to be a well-rounded individual when you come out of college.
This one actually ties into something I said earlier. And I was thinking if I were a student trustee, to kind of address a diverse body of students, I would use the same tactic that I would use to inform students. A lot of times, we have clubs that are for African American students, or international students, or LGBT students. And in that sense, it seems like a natural avenue for me to go and visit those clubs and say, hey, as a certain demographic of Ohio University, do you have any concerns? Do you have any thoughts? What can I share with the Board of Trustees? And really, just I think the best way to address diversity on campus, or a diverse body of students, is just to be available. Make it known that you have office hours, you're willing to listen, you want to know what they're thinking, and that they do have a voice.
So diversity and inclusion has been a hot topic recently because a lot of people are uncertain about the direction of diversity and inclusion. So if I were a trustee, I would really try to advocate for really promoting inclusion for everybody, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of any sort of gender, sexual orientation, regardless of anything, inclusive for everybody. A bobcat is a bobcat is part of the bobcat family. In terms of experience I have that would help me allow me to do this as a trustee is a lot of my time spent on the Senate Appropriations Commission. On this commission, I received lots of budget requests. I look over the requests and learn about organizations, what they do, whether organizations for rock climbing, whether it's organizations for different minorities across campus. I learn about what events they're hosting and why those events are important to them, good culture, and what they do. Just really interesting things like that, and a way that helps me get to know people on campus better too. I think combining that experience plus having these strong, powerful conversations with students across campus would really help me promote inclusion for all students.
So coming from a background of English, I really understand, and part of what I study is understanding intersectionality that's inherent in power structures. And so that includes people who to come to campus from other countries, come to campus from other communities, other cultures. And so these groups of people face barriers above and beyond what people in mainstream culture or most students on campus face. And so it's important that we take additional initiatives to reach out to students like this. And that's because they face additional barriers. So it's not enough to address everyone equally. There has to be a sense of equity as well. And that means providing additional access for people who face these barriers. And in order to do that, the most important thing you can do is to reach out to those communities and form their own relationship. That can be through the program they're here with, through any collective organizations that they're part of. But it's incumbent upon us to cede power to these groups and to lift them up. It's not enough to say that everything should be equal, we should provide access to everyone. We need to go out of our way to find out what are the barriers that are facing these students, and how can we address them on an individual and a collective basis to really help them achieve the same level of success and opportunity as the rest of students.
We are all very complex intersectional individuals. Everybody has different pieces of them that are not shared with everyone else around them. Having said that, some people have more identities that do not are not widely shared with the existing university population. Fortunately, I have a little bit of a background in dealing with identities. 2 years ago, I actually spent a year as a government equal opportunity officer, working on not only the most obvious levels, making sure that religion and national origin, race, and gender and sexual orientation are all taken into account when government policies are made, but also making sure that the individual diversity of each person can be addressed. So during that time, I helped implement the Obama-era transgender ban for about 1,000 people, or I'm sorry, transgender policy for about 1,000 people. And I believe firmly that by taking each person as an individual and respecting the rights of everyone, we can move forward as a university and as a country.
Diversity and inclusion is a subject that is relatively new to me. However, from the whole selection process for becoming a resident assistant, or even just the end goal of being a doctor, going to med school, diversity and inclusion in the healthcare setting is essential. And so recently I've decided to actually begin working on an undergraduate certificate in diversity studies. And so through doing so, I've learned that a key strategy to combat a lack of understanding of diversity and inclusion is to practice what's called critical consciousness. And this is basically a process where you remind yourself to be open to new perspectives, you take them in, you add them to your own, and then you question why you have developed the thoughts and ideas that you have. And basically through this, you can implement others' ideas, values, and that way you can be more representative of a larger group. As I previously stated, one of the big things I believe in is that words are powerful, and each individual has words and ideas and values that they wish to be represented. And through this practice of critical consciousness, I believe is a great opportunity to properly communicate different ideas to a group of people, such as the Board of Trustees.
So I think diversity is one of our most important values as a student body. I think one of the ways to really embrace diversity as a student trustee would be the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. They actually have a program, it's called Diversity Ambassadors, where they gather together a group of very diverse students, all with different backgrounds and perspectives, and have them there as advisors for a lot of different policies related to diversity. So I think one of the things I could do as student trustee would be reaching out to those diversity ambassadors, hearing their perspectives and their voices, and understanding them. Also, I think another important step is going to the programming brought on by these diversity groups. For example, yesterday, AEPI, a Jewish fraternity on campus, just brought in a Holocaust survivor, and that was a really profound and amazing experience. I think a lot of us would be very benefited having gone to. And I think by going to these events, truly taking them in, understanding them, and internalizing them, you can, to the best of your ability, advocate for their voices.
I want to begin by saying that no matter how hard I try, I will never understand the experiences of minority groups and how that they are affected. That being said, the very best that I can do is recognize the differences of others and work hard to include them in what we're doing. This question really makes me think of my experience as a mock trial captain. I got the wonderful pleasure of being a mock trial captain this year, but that also means that I co-captain amongst an individual and I lead a group of people that are very different from myself. I think it's important to understand that diversity does not just mean, it's not just in the context of race, ethnicity, and sexual orientation. I think it's important to understand that we have so many socioeconomic differences within Southeast Ohio and Appalachia. We also need to consider those that are disabled. into these considerations. And I found that as a mock trial captain, I was forced to be cognizant of these different groups and recognize how that may affect them, even in the capacity of just participating in an organization. I think that as a student trustee, the best thing we can do is recognize the differences of others and make sure that we are being inclusive in the decisions by knowing what they want us to do with decisions and how we best represent those differences. Oh,
Keep
no.
it down.
Yeah, you can keep it down there. I get it. So, though you are a student, the student trustee is charged with the decision making on behalf of all university constituents. How would you advocate for students while also ensuring that you are acting with faculty, staff, and community members in mind?
So, as a member of the Honors Tutorial College, I have a unique connection to faculty members. Every week, part of the HTC is you have a tutorial with the professor, usually one-on-one, or you volunteer either in dean or other HTC events where you meet faculty. Faculty-student interactions are a huge part of the HTC, so it's something I'm fairly familiar with. As well as up at the Bournemouth School, it's pretty much all faculty up there. So just using those networks, I feel like I'd really be able to kind of discuss university issues with faculty and to see, what are they thinking, what are their opinions, maybe they have a viewpoint that I as a student wouldn't really follow, but is equally important to present to the Board of Trustees. As far as on a community level, I think Athens is a really awesome town, and it's full of some really cool people who are they love Ohio University, even if they're not part of it. And they have connections with students. One thing I'm thinking of in particular is Good Works Incorporated, which is like a homeless shelter, a homeless relief center run by a guy named Steve Foster. And I'd really like to kind of reach out to organizations like that and just kind of see, hey, how can we get students involved with you? How would you like maybe speak to the university? How can I, as a student trustee, help do that?
So representing such a large group of people can be a challenge at times. So sometimes you can kind of break it up into different pieces and look at how you can represent each different piece. In terms of representing students as a SAC Senator, I've been doing that already, and I hope to continue to do so regardless of my selection or non-selection as a student trustee within the Senate, and really kind of going around different organizations, learning more about them, and just communicating with people on a face-to-face level is something that's really important to me. In terms of community members, through my Ohio Honors program, I've already gained some connections to a lot of different community members. We've taken a few different field trips, including one to the local college market that I go up every Saturday, talking to students and some of the people there. So why do we should do things like that? So we've been on some other field trips and learned about some of the geography, different things that are going on in Athens, and some of those important topics to them, not necessarily particularly related to the university, but to the city as a whole. In terms of faculty, I can speak from one senator to another. Talking to faculty senate is one of the key ways we can really get messages across and listen to other faculty, as well as having basic conversations with my current and future potential professors as well. So ultimately, looking at those different pieces, I will also have a game plan as a trustee for how exactly I'm going to represent all of these people.
So I think the role of the student trustee is a complex one. It really requires an understanding of the hierarchy of roles. So primarily, our duty is to represent the student body first and foremost. Beyond that, it's important to recognize, though, how representing and advocating for the needs of students could potentially infringe upon the rights or the interests of other groups, and that includes the community, that includes faculty. And so it's important to recognize when there's potential for that to occur, and first and foremost, try and prioritize the interests of students, but within the context of understanding how to impact others. Second, I think that one can avoid some of these pitfalls by really understanding what the common interests of these groups are, And when you can align the values of the student body with the community, with faculty, then you can craft policy that really works for everyone instead of just advocating for one group at a time. And that's easier said than done, of course, but it requires communication with representatives from those groups. And first and foremost, you have a board who represents those stakeholders. So communicating with the board about what those interests are, they are going to represent their primary interests first and foremost as well. And so understanding their perspective and how you can work with them to find goals and policies that align our common values, I think is really paramount in order to be an effective student trustee.
Let's talk about my relationship with Athens and Ohio University. So I am an actual townie. I was born in O'Bleness. I have always, no matter how many countries I go to, my home of record is always Athens, and it always will be Athens. Growing up, my parents both had employment at Ohio University. My stepdad is still one of the people who mows around your dorms. I have my undergraduate degree from Ohio University and had both the experience of being a conventional 18-year-old showing up, starting school, and also the experience of being a non-traditional student as my time at OU grew longer. I actually became a faculty member for a little while. I taught in the ROTC department for 2 years, thereabouts, and now I'm back in the graduate level. So I have deep connections to this community and this school at virtually all levels, and I love every one of them that I've experienced.
I think that an important thing to remember when going about business as a student trustee is that you are representative of the students, but also the university as a whole. The board functions to benefit the university, and so it's important to keep in mind that not only are your actions affecting students, but faculty, staff members, everyone. So I believe that a really good way to start the process of branching out to attain ideas from other individuals, not just students, but faculty and staff as well, would be to just start with organizations that you're familiar with, and then continue from there into what you are unfamiliar with, ensuring that the methods by which you go about doing so remain consistent. So, for example, just going to a meeting for an organization that you're involved in, and presenting certain matters that you would like to receive perspective on. You could present the information, you could gain ideas as to what the group at large feels about those ideas, and then say after the meeting, you talk to the president or leader of that group. And then from there, you can ask them, how do you feel we could get this information out so that we could attain information from other individuals regarding what they think about certain issues. This same idea could be applied to organizations run by faculty. For example, the National Biological Honor Society that I'm a part of is supervised directly by a faculty member. So same process, you could present information that you have, just a little message at the beginning of, say, a general body meeting, and then afterwards you could consult the supervisor of that, who may be a faculty member, and you could ask them, how do you feel we could continue to spread this information so that we can get ideas representative of faculty, stemming out from what you're involved in and proceeding outward, I feel is a fantastic way to go about making sure you're representative of the student body, faculty, and staff as well.
So when answering this question, I think it's important to recognize that Ohio University isn't just Ohio University, it is the Athens community. A lot of the professors, staff at Ohio University actually live around Athens, and they make up a large portion of the Athens population. And understanding that, I think it's important to not only reach out to student forms of government, but to reach out to the local government as well. For example, City Hall. I think City Hall, by going to their meetings, you can have a better understanding of some of the problems facing the Athens community and some of the tensions with Ohio University and the surrounding city. So by going there, I think it's very important that you can keep in mind what other people are experiencing and try to understand it.
I want to begin by telling each of you my connection to these groups that have been mentioned in the question. I would consider myself a little bit of a fake Athenian. I grew up about 30 minutes away from here, but my mom works in Athens. I essentially grew up in Donkey Coffee because I would escape the law office my mom works at and then sit outside and pet Big Dog. It's my favorite dog in the entire world. I also want to say that my grandma, she was the dean of education here around in the 90s. And I grew up essentially knowing I would go to OU because I loved Athens. I visited Athens, I had been to the rec center, I took swimming lessons here. I absolutely love Athens. And that was something that I really considered in my student, in choosing to be a student here at Ohio University. I feel that my knowledge of Athens and the resources of Athens will allow me to represent Athens as a whole, as well as knowing to reach out to city council, as I mentioned. When it comes to faculty, I also would consider myself very connected with my professors. I am also part of the Cutler Scholars Program, and a portion of that is having a colloquium, which is led by a faculty. You get to know that person very, very well. And I will say that by knowing those people, they help you branch out to so many other faculty. I feel that I have a great relationship with my professors, and a good relationship with one will allow you to extend to so many more professors. I also want to move on to staff. I think one of the most interesting interactions I have is with Lisa, the cleaning lady at Johnson Hall at 7 a.m. I had an 8 o'clock class, and Lisa would say hello to me every morning and tell me her grievances. And one grievance I remember she told me was that she couldn't find parking for her car. So she had to leave her parking, come clean the bathrooms before because she didn't want to inconvenience students' schedule. And she came back and got a ticket in her car. And I think just having the interaction with her really made me consider the role of staff, and also the importance of knowing the struggles that they're facing too. I think that with all these connections to different people, my job as a student trustee is to bring these perspectives and balance them with my primary goal, which is to represent students. And hopefully in that, I can find a beneficial stance that will benefit both students as well as all those groups that I care so much about.
So one of the things that I think is really cool about being a student here is that you contribute so much to the community, and the community cares about you so much. Beyond some of the other areas that have already been spoken upon, such as going to City Hall, things of that nature, one of the things that I think is really cool is just going to Walmart and just hanging out and then talking to some of those people. Because those are the people that have a stake, that are stakeholders in the university as well, but they might not come uptown a lot. But they still have, like, it's still important to them that you're in this area. So I think that's really an area for like community members, we can really reach out to them, as well as even trying to maybe go to local high schools. Like go to Athens High School and just say, what are some of the things that you growing up in this town has affected you? How could it improve the life of the town itself? And then when it comes to faculty members, I think it was a good point brought up earlier that a lot of the faculty members do live here, so that they also are a townsperson as well. So they kind of get both perspectives. It's like, hey, here's what it's like as a faculty member, here's what it's like as a townsperson. And faculty, one of the things that I get to do as a presidential leader that's super cool is I get to interact with so many faculty members at every event I go to, and I get to understand their opinions on the university. And just making that connection is really important, because if I have a question that I would say, okay, this department, it's going to really affect them, I need to go to this contact, I will have that person. And that's something I think is because it's about us. It's about understanding how we as a group can collectively benefit from these relationships. Now with staff, one of my favorite things is I know Ellen said like Lisa Johnson, Mary in the college business. And Mary, I'll tell you what, Mary, she comes in, she's like chatting you up, and she'll tell you, this is what I really don't like, this stinks every day. But it's just so, I love talking to Mary. Every time we sit there, I'll be studying something, next thing you know, it's like 11 o'clock when she comes in, and I'll look up and it's 1:30 and I'm like, I didn't do anything. So I got to be up for another hour and a half or so just studying. But those are my favorite conversations, because I feel like they're very candid and they're very general and they're very genuine, because those people care about you and you care about them and you care about their opinions, because they're people. We're all people and we all care about each other. So that's kind of some of the areas in which I think we can really help. Like I feel like I myself can help make us as a group. Now we can benefit the faculty, the staff, and the people at this community.
Okay, so this is going to be our final question. So as you answer this question, you can also do any wrapping up that you want to do. So our final question is, why should you be chosen as the next student trustee?
So all of us here are fantastic candidates, and it's been great getting to know all of you this evening. One reason why I think I would be a really good student trustee, to kind of echo on some of the things I've been talking about throughout this evening, is my ability to communicate well. I've been talking to people, having honest conversations with them for a very long time, but I feel there's a big difference between just kind of hearing someone what they might be saying and really trying to sit down and really listen to them, understand where they're coming from, understand their part of the story, their story, things like that. So one strength I would bring is just that ability to communicate, and that would really help me have those sit down, honest conversations, which would thus in turn allow me to help promote an inclusive atmosphere. It would help me represent students, residents of Athens, faculty members, staff members, everybody. It would allow me to get to know opinions from all different parts of diverse parts of campus and different organizations. And generally, it would allow me to be the best student trustee I could possibly be.
So I think part of what makes me a good candidate for the student trustee position is less about individual qualities and more about my philosophy of how the role functions and understanding the dynamics of campus. And so as much as I appreciate my own personal qualities and what I think I have to bring to the table, I think my most valuable quality would be understanding the perspective of others and really having trained for a good portion of my life in understanding the struggles that other groups face even outside of them. And so part of my passion, my philosophy is to strive to understand those groups and to advocate. And so as much as possible, I see my role as a student trustee is as a conduit for other people and to take the power that the role of student trustee has and to seed that to individual groups. And that means groups that might not have visibility or platform on campus. And that means addressing the diversity of campus. And I think that my individual experiences lend themselves well in terms of the amount of advocacy that I've done for different groups of people, as well as the different groups of people with different perspectives that lend well to my ability to then transition that and understand groups on campus as well. So I hope to use those skills to really leverage the power of individuals and organizations on campus to give students a greater voice in their own education and in the institution.
I have a different viewpoint from most who are going out for this position today, and even from the vast majority of those who have ever sought this position or gained this position. In that, I have had so many different identities related to the university, including my current status as a graduate student, where I am interacting with so many undergraduates from the front of the classroom in a way that I never could see so many different viewpoints when I was an undergrad. I think that it would be a travesty. Both of the positions both of the student trustee positions were filled by graduate students. There's only 6,000 of us. That should not be the only viewpoint represented for students. But I do think that those 6,000 students deserve a voice, and a voice that can also speak for the undergraduates, for the community, and for the staff and faculty of our university.
I just want to say that we're all qualified for this position, but what I feel sets me apart is my, as I previously stated, knowledge of group dynamics, and even more so in nuances, my own personal attributes. I've always had what I like to think is a really strong work ethic. Whenever I set my mind on something, I pursue it, and I have every single intention of succeeding with the goals that I set. For example, just as I mentioned, going into healthcare and being a resident assistant, one of the ideas on the forefront of both of those two settings is diversity and inclusion, which is why I decided to pursue a certificate so I could learn more about it, so I could be begin exercising it so I could implement it into who I am as a person. Work ethic is something that I've always valued. As I previously stated, I'm a musician, and so I've had a lot of experience in terms of the musical world and working hard. Just this past November, I auditioned for a world-class organization of which over 700 people auditioned for, and I was offered a contract for the spot on it. And getting there was not easy. It took a lot of hours, a lot of different methods of thinking, and a lot of introspection. And from different experiences similar to that, I feel I have learned how to be the best version of myself and how to properly approach goals, working towards them, and then achieving the results that I desire.
So Ohio University to me is an amazing place where people can go, including myself, where we can go and truly become empowered and grow as people. By coming to Ohio University, I believe I have achieved tremendous personal growth, and I attribute a lot of that to the community that we have here, the Bobcat community. I truly love this school, and for that reason, I'm willing to work hard and do whatever it takes to make sure other people can have the same opportunities and empowerment that I have as a result of the Ohio University's campus. So what I bring to the table is a desire to truly understand the community and those in it, and I want to approach all the position itself with a sense of empathy, because I want to truly represent the values that we as a community hold. Thank you.
I don't think that I could properly eliminate without recognizing that every other candidate up here is so qualified and so excellent. And as I learn more about them, I'm even more impressed and shocked that I'm sitting amongst the same. However, I do want to recognize that as I've been sitting here, I've been looking at this sign and it asked me, what am I passionate about? And I'm really, really passionate about student advocacy and empowerment. This is reflected through my future job as an attorney. It's reflected in the organizations I do now, but it's also reflected in my commitment to students. I do want to say that I've never been shy of words. That's never been something I've had to worry about. But I also think that this could benefit me in the sense that I would love to communicate with students. And I also think that I would be able to listen to students and be able to translate that to the board. I also want to talk about the fact that I'm very well connected. I'm in many organizations. As a freshman, I feel as though I have definitely thrown myself headfirst into the pool, but I've made sure that I committed myself to every organization I've been a part of. I want to bring these connections, this passion for advocacy, and the experiences I've had at Ohio University to a role as a student trustee. I also want to end by thanking all of you for your time and all of you that are watching via live stream. I know that it's a great experience here who could be your student trustee. Thank you.
I'm sorry. I first just want to say thank you for giving all of us the opportunity to sit up here tonight and really kind of give our opinions and what we believe as to how we can better this university. I do want to say that I think that universities have a very unique role in somebody's life and that they can really shape the life of an individual. They come to schools maybe not knowing what it's like in the world, maybe not knowing where their place is, and they leave a Bobcat forever and they really go out into the world and they want to make a difference. And that's something that I think I am very passionate about as well, is helping make others happy and passionate about what they're passionate about. If that makes any sense. Every day I want to go out and I want to make other individuals' lives better. And that's something that I feel like I uniquely have in giving back to my community, is that if I understand this perspective that we as students have a role to help better this town, help better each other, then I can really spread that amongst other individuals and can really showcase that to the board of trustees as well. Because if you show people that you care about them, and we're willing to say like, hey, this is an issue that I have. I really trust you. And I really trust that you're going to bring up my perspective and be able to say what I truly believe. And that way I can help all of us as a whole come together and say that it's about us. This is about how we as a general population can make a difference in the community and how we can make a difference in each other's lives. So like I said, I just want to say again, like, thank you. And I just want to say all a great job tonight. And I really look forward to talking to you and getting to know you more throughout the next couple of years.
Yeah, so I'd like to echo everyone's sentiments. You're all very qualified, you're all awesome people. It's cool to hang out here and have a conversation. And also thank you for coming out. I've already mentioned my unique connections to the HTC, the Boyneville School. I've already mentioned my plan to go and visit clubs personally. I haven't really mentioned, I have really good time management and I'm motivated. I don't think I've ever turned in a paper late, to be honest with you. So there's just some like basic skills that I can bring to the table, but I don't really want to focus on those either. What I do want to focus on is my studies and my volunteer work back in high school and even now in college, and my passions are about inequality and people who don't have a say in society, really. And I want to ensure here in my time at Ohio University and also in the future, my career, that I can serve as an accurate voice for people who might feel like they don't have a voice, especially in this political era. I know a lot of people feel like, our vote doesn't matter, our opinion doesn't matter. These rich people are going to do whatever they want. And I know Ohio University is a little smaller than the country or the world, but I don't want students to feel that way here either. I don't want them to feel like their opinions and their thoughts are being steamrolled by the university higher ups. So I just really want to present their voice as clearly and accurately as possible so that their interests can be addressed. So, thank you.
Thanks. I was gonna say a few things.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry, I just didn't know. Trying to make life easier.
Thanks, Justin. All right, well, this will be really short. I just want to thank you all for coming. Thank you for your wonderful, very thoughtful responses to all of our questions. Thank you to our audience and those on the live stream. And I hope you all have a really great rest of your night. Thank you.
Thank you.
I myself do not know how to turn this. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, thank you so much for getting it together. You want to sit for a second? We don't have to.
So 2004, how
Let's find out something.
I guess something.
We'll find out sometime next week. I don't want to interrupt. I just want to say this text like that.
Yeah.
Hopefully we're gonna give you
Yes, sir. We still rolling?
That was gonna be what my first thing was. Oh, there's 5.
Bye, everybody.